Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you're part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and get ready for a story that will leave you thinking. And if you love inspiring tales, a like goes a long way. We don't serve people who can't pay. The words cut through the diner's fluorescent haze like shattered glass. The truck driver's weathered hands trembled as he counted his wrinkled bills for the third time. Outside, the relentless snow erased the highway, just as the cashier's cold stare was erasing this man's dignity in front of everyone. The roadside diner glowed like a lonely lighthouse against midnight's canvas of swirling snow. Inside, the scattered patrons kept their eyes down, pretending not to notice the scene unfolding at the counter. 15 hours on the road had left the driver's eyes bloodshot, his shoulders curved under invisible weight. The cashier's name tag read Manager, a title worn like armor against human compassion. "Either pay or leave," the manager insisted, voice rising above the clinking of silverware. The diner fell silent. In the far corner booth, partially hidden by shadow, a man in a dark jacket lowered his coffee cup. None of the patrons recognized Keanu Reeves yet, but in the next few minutes, this forgotten highway diner would become a place no one would ever forget. If this moment made you feel something, imagine what's coming next. Hit that like button and stay with us. Subscribe now. The truck driver's name was Mike. 15 hours behind the wheel through mountain passes and blinding snow, delivering medical supplies to a hospital 3 states over. His wallet had slipped from his pocket at a gas station 2 hours back, discovered only when his hand reached for it to pay for the simple meal that was to be his first in nearly a day. The eggs and toast sat before him now, growing cold, much like the atmosphere around him. The other patrons, night owls, insomniacs, and fellow travelers, created a tapestry of averted gazes and uncomfortable silence as the manager's voice rose with each repeated demand. "Look, I can wash dishes, mop floors, anything," Mike offered, his voice carrying the gravel of exhaustion and the weight of pride being swallowed. "I just need to eat something before I get back on the road." The manager's laugh was sharp, rehearsed, as if he'd encountered this scenario before and had developed immunity to its humanity. "This isn't a charity. This isn't a soup kitchen. This is a business." Each word was a nail in the coffin of compassion. A woman at the counter slid her plate slightly away, as if poverty might be contagious. A teenager recording with his phone whispered, "This is going viral," the excitement in his voice revealing how spectacle had replaced empathy. Mike's weathered hands gathered the bills again. $7.35 for an $8.95 meal. The mathematical impossibility weighed heavier than the 16-hour shifts and the 40-ton cargo. In the corner booth, Keanu Reeves observed the scene unfold with growing intensity. He'd stopped here by chance, seeking refuge from the storm during a drive to a nearby film location. Dressed in a simple black jacket, baseball cap pulled low, he'd been enjoying the anonymity that small-town diners at midnight usually afforded. But now, his eyes fixed on the truck driver's hunched shoulders, the manager's dismissive posture, and the collective moral vacuum created by the silent onlookers. The actor's hand tightened imperceptibly around his coffee cup as the scene crystallized into something he couldn't ignore. Things are about to take a turn. Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe, like our video, and keep watching. "I said you need to leave." The manager's voice had crossed into public performance now, loud enough to ensure everyone understood his authority. He reached for Mike's plate, fingers hovering just above the cold eggs. "I'm calling the sheriff if you don't walk out that door in the next minute." Mike's calloused hand moved to protect his meal, the instinctive gesture of someone who had gone too long without eating. "Please, he said, the word barely audible over the sudden screech of the teenage boy's chair as he repositioned for a better recording angle. The cook peered through the service window, his expression caught between concern and resignation. He'd seen this manager perform this ritual before. An elderly couple by the window exchanged glances, the woman's hand reaching for her purse before her husband subtly shook his head, their potential intervention smothered by the bystander effect. The trucker's face flushed with a complex mixture of hunger, embarrassment, and the deep fatigue that comes from pushing human limits for too many consecutive hours. The manager's hand finally descended, fingers gripping the edge of Mike's plate. The truck driver didn't resist, his momentary defiance collapsing under the weight of public scrutiny. "Those supplies," Mike said quietly, "they're for kids at St. Mary's Children's Hospital. I just need to get back on the road." The manager's face hardened. "Not my problem," he replied, twisting the knife. The teenager with the phone snickered, adding narration to his video. "Dude's trying the sympathy card." The sound of a booth creaking broke through the tension as Keanu rose, his movement deliberate yet unrushed. Several patrons glanced up, double takes and widening eyes signaling recognition spreading through the diner like ripples on still water. The manager remained oblivious, his back to the approaching figure as he continued his power play. "Maybe next time you'll remember your wallet," he said, pulling the plate away completely. Mike's empty stomach clenched audibly in the sudden silence, a sound both pathetic and profoundly human. "Excuse me." Keanu's voice cut through the diner with quiet authority, causing the manager to turn, plate still in hand. Recognition crashed across the manager's face in waves. Disbelief, realization, then a rapid recalculation of his position in this unexpected scenario. The teenager's phone swiveled, his commentary instantly shifting. "Holy shit, that's John Wick." The actor's presence transformed the diner's atmosphere, like oxygen suddenly pumped into a vacuum. Whispers erupted around the tables, the celebrity sighting sending electric currents through the previously apathetic crowd. But Keanu's focus remained entirely on the scene before him, his expression contemplative rather than confrontational. He approached the counter with measured steps, stopping beside Mike, who hadn't yet realized the identity of the man standing next to him. "I couldn't help overhearing," Keanu said, his voice carrying that distinctive gentle gravity fans would recognize anywhere. The manager's demeanor shifted instantly, customer service smile materializing as if pulled by strings. "Mr. Reeves, such an honor to have you in our establishment. Is there something I can—" Keanu raised his hand slightly, the smallest gesture silencing the manager more effectively than a shout. "This story is only getting deeper. What would you do in this situation? Comment below, and let's talk." "May I?" Keanu gestured toward the plate in the manager's hands. The manager immediately offered it, his previous stance evaporating. "Of course, sir. Would you like something else? On the house, naturally." Keanu took the plate and set it gently back in front of Mike, who looked up with confusion dawning into recognition. "I think this gentleman was in the middle of his meal," Keanu said. The manager's smile tightened. "Sir, he can't pay. We have policies." "I understand policies," Keanu interrupted, his voice remaining measured yet somehow filling the space. "I also understand 16-hour shifts and hospital deliveries and losing your wallet and being hungry." He turned to Mike with genuine respect in his eyes. "How long have you been driving trucks?" Mike straightened slightly, professional pride momentarily overriding his exhaustion. 23 years, sir." The diner had become utterly silent, the teenager's phone still recording but now held reverently, capturing something unexpected. Even the snow outside seemed to pause against the windows, as if nature itself was listening. 23 years. Keanu repeated, turning back to the manager. "That's a lot of miles, a lot of nights away from family, a lot of cargo safely delivered." His eyes scanned the diner, including every witness in his quiet address. "Do you know what's in his truck right now? Medical supplies for children." The elderly woman who had reached for her purse earlier whispered, "Oh my," her husband now nodding in solidarity rather than restraint. Keanu reached into his pocket, producing his wallet. "I'd like to pay for his meal." The manager reached for the bills, but Keanu wasn't finished. "And for everyone else in the diner tonight." A collective gasp rippled through the room. The manager's eyes widened, dollar signs practically visible in his pupils. "That's very generous, Mr. Reeves. But, and," Keanu continued, his voice dropping to a register that commanded complete attention, "I'd like to add something." He laid several $100 bills on the counter. "This is for the next 10 truck drivers who come through and find themselves short." The manager stared at the money, his previous authority completely dismantled. Mike looked up at Keanu, eyes glistening with gratitude that went beyond the meal. "I can't accept," he began, but Keanu placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You're not accepting charity," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're accepting recognition for the work you do that keeps this country running, for the nights you spend away from your family so that hospitals get their supplies, for the meals you miss and the sleep you lose." He turned to address the entire diner. "We all take for granted that things just appear in our stores, our hospitals, our homes. We don't see the human beings who make that happen." The teenager had lowered his phone, recording forgotten as the reality of the moment outweighed its viral potential. The cook emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron, moved by words that acknowledged invisible labor. Mike's shoulders straightened fully now, a man seen for the first time in years. The snow continued falling outside, but inside, something more profound was falling away. The indifference that had allowed everyone to watch a man's dignity being stripped in public. It's not over yet. The best part is coming. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. The diner transformed in the minutes that followed. The elderly couple invited Mike to join them, insisting he finish his meal while it was still warm. The cook returned with a fresh plate of eggs, properly hot this time, and added extra bacon on the house. The teenager put his phone away completely, approached Mike and asked if he could help carry his things to the truck when he was ready to leave. The manager, faced with the stark contrast between Keanu's humanity and his own behavior, retreated to the back office, the weight of public shame finally heavier than his inflexible rules. Keanu declined multiple requests for photos and autographs with gentle firmness. "Tonight isn't about me." Instead, he sat back in his booth, watching the small miracle of community that had awakened in his wake. As Mike finished his meal, patrons approached him one by one. A nurse ending her night shift shared that the hospital where she worked wouldn't function without people like him. A teacher confessed she'd never thought about who delivered the textbooks her students used. The cook emerged again to refill Mike's coffee cup, revealing that his own father had been a truck driver for 30 years. "Toughest job there is," he said with newfound respect. Outside, the snowstorm began to abate, as if nature itself had decided to make the road ahead easier. The teenager, who had been so eager to capture humiliation for online entertainment, deleted the video and instead helped Mike check the tire chains on his truck. The transformation was tangible, not just sympathy, but genuine connection between people who had been strangers minutes before. Before Mike left, he approached Keanu's booth, standing tall despite his exhaustion. "I don't know how to thank you," he began. But Keanu shook his head. "Just get those supplies to the children safely," he replied, offering his hand. The two men shook, a gesture of equals rather than savior, and saved. As Mike walked toward the door, the diner erupted in spontaneous applause, not for the celebrity in their midst, but for the truck driver. Keanu watched from his booth, a small smile of satisfaction on his face. When the door closed behind Mike, he quietly settled his own bill and slipped out unnoticed while the patrons were gathered at the window, watching the truck's taillights disappear into the night. The story would spread beyond that highway diner, not because of Keanu's celebrity, but because he had reminded everyone of a simple truth. True kindness isn't about helping those we admire or recognize, but about caring for those who remain invisible in plain sight, those whose labor sustains our world while we sleep. Wow, what a story! If this moved you, imagine what else we have for you. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let us know what you think.